731-2000 if you'd like to have a chat with us, because a little bit later on in the show we're going to be talking about online safety. Now, I think for a lot of us, our phones are joined to us by the hip. I know it is for me. We're going to be talking about, day-to-day tasks that we use, including banking, shopping. Everything nowadays is online, and we're so more susceptible to cyber attacks. Well, we're going to be joined by Jamal Ahmed. He's referred to as King of Data Protection, and he'll be giving us some real top tips on how we can ensure that we are staying safe online. So if you've got any questions regarding that, maybe you yourself feel you have shared too much information. Privacy is a big discussion at the moment, and you'd like to talk about that with our guest, then 0800 731 2000. You can text us as well, 81333. Start the message with London. So you do everything online nowadays, don't you?
Yeah, it's much easier.
And I have a very good feeling that we're going to hear a lot more from her this year as well. A very good evening. It is 6:35. Sunny and Shay on BBC Radio London. We're here with you tonight until 8 o'clock. Something that we wanted to do, and Sunny and I were talking about this off air before we came to the show today. Realised we haven't discussed online safety, cyber attacks, data protection in quite some time on our show. And it is so paramount because all of us, whether you like it or not, rely on the internet on a day-to-day basis. And so we wanted to discuss that tonight on the show. Without even realising it, you're probably more vulnerable to cyber attacks now than ever before. And it can be so particularly stressful to those who are not computer savvy. So if you would like to talk to our next guest, who is known very much as the King of Data Protection, give us a call on 0800 731 2000. He helps to give tips and safeguard the privacy of personal data of his businesses, and he's here to give us some of those insider tips that we wouldn't otherwise know. I'm delighted to say that we have CEO of Kazient Privacy Experts, Jamal Ahmed, in the studio. Jamal,
welcome,
pleasure
Jamal.
to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me on the show, guys.
Now, let me ask you, Jamal, first, before we even get into the security side of it, right? If we look at the internet as it is, everyone thinks you go on Google or you go onto any other search engine and you go on the internet and that's it. But then if we look at it like an iceberg, that's just the top part of the iceberg that we can see floating on the water. And underneath is this massive juggernaut of different layers of the internet itself. Anyone who's not aware of the fact that there's a bigger internet out there than that small bit we see at the top, which we use on a daily basis, like search engines and maybe all of that kind of stuff. How many different layers are there of the internet itself?
It's just a bit like asking me how long is a piece of string.
No, but I think they've already given us sort of an outline, isn't it? The dark web, the deep web, and all of that kind of stuff. So they've divided it. Yeah,
you've got different variations, and then you've got so many algorithms as well, and then you've got all of the massive data centers with information being on the clouds in different countries. It could be anywhere. So your data, as soon as you click send or as soon as you click go on a website, it could fly around the globe within a matter of milliseconds, and it could be everywhere. And it's not just going from one place at one time simultaneously. It's like a nuclear fission. It could be in multiple places.
Boom. Just like
within a couple of
seconds.
seconds.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so there's a new thing that's coming out at the moment. It's called VPNs to protect your data. And I've seen this as well. If you want to go abroad, if you want to look at content, if you want to protect your data, what you're doing abroad, then get yourself a VPN. What is a VPN and how does that work?
Yeah, a VPN is basically a virtual private network. So what it does, it establishes a secure connection between your device and the internet, so other people can't interrupt and they can't see what's actually happening. So it's become increasingly popular to see VPNs being advertised everywhere. But essentially all it is, it creates a virtual private network for you. So for example, in the BBC have a network of computers.
Yes.
A VPN would actually isolate that into a secure private network just between your device and the internet connection.
And,
so no one else can get in.
Do you recommend that people like, just the average Joe should have a VPN for their daily usage at home?
So I would recommend everyone takes good measures and good practice to keep their cyber hygiene strong.
Now this I'm intrigued by.
Cyber hygiene.
What on earth does that mean, and what should we all be doing? Because you're the king of data protection, so I guarantee I'm going to be probably so embarrassed by what I'm not doing when you tell us? What should we be doing to keep our cyber hygiene?
All right, so I've got a couple of tips I can share with you. And
Please.
when you think about it, they're actually very simple, but it's a lot of things that a lot of people actually fail to do.
Okay.
So the first thing I would say is keep your personal information professional and limited. So if there's something out there that you wouldn't want potential employers or customers to see, then you shouldn't really be putting it out there.
So you're talking about social media now, right?
You could talk about social media, but then usually we leave comments and posts on just articles and so many different places.
Wow. Okay, yes. I didn't realise that.
Yeah,
That's a very good point.
What I would say is think about your potential employers, your potential customers, or your mother, and think about, do I want them to see this? And if you don't want them to see it, then don't. And one thing I say to my clients is, here's the test. If you were to have a piece of paper and stand outside Oxford Circus Station on a Friday night and you were to give that out to random strangers, what would you put on there? If you wouldn't put it on that piece of paper, don't put it online, because online you're giving it out to millions.
Good advice.
Do you know what?
That is
such a good point, because the thing is, most of the time, you don't, because you're hiding behind your screen, you're not thinking about the fact that so many people can see this. It's human beings just like us that are going to see it.
Now, we've seen a result of people who have done this in America. You know, the TP march in the South, and people who went on that march with their torches, and they were on the news, and they were actually on social media. And so their bosses were like, we don't want to be associated with you. Yeah. We don't represent those values. And as a result, these individuals were either they lost their job or they were reprimanded in some way, shape or form. And then they, and that's how it's a direct result of you taking a certain stance and putting yourself out there that can affect your job and your livelihood.
Absolutely, you can. And this is why we say we need to look at our privacy settings. So my second piece of advice is keep your privacy settings on. So when you're using websites like Facebook or social media like Twitter, what you can do is go into your privacy settings and choose who gets to see what you're posting. So for example, if I wanted to go and post something now about something quite personal, maybe I would just limit those settings to, I just want my friends to see it, and I know who my friends are. If I'm quite comfortable with a little bit more people seeing it, then that's fine as well. But some people will, by default, will have their settings to public, which means absolutely anyone can know everything about you.
Any Tom, Dick and Harry.
Exactly. And do we want any Tom, Dick and Harry seeing absolutely everything about our lives? No, we don't. And what I would say is on social media especially is be very careful about where you take those pictures and where you post them and who can see them.
Right. What do you mean by that? Because I've in the past been told, and I mean, I'll be honest, now with Sunny and I as parents, I think we are now more conscious than ever, having a baby, you know, not to post. But in the past, you'd be out with your girlfriends and you know what it's like. You'll post where you are, what time, you tag the location, you know, right down to the actual restaurant that you're in, and then you'll even put when you're on the move. So, and it was only until a friend said to me when I got pregnant, actually, if I wanted to follow you, I would know exactly where you are at any given time because of what you're putting on Facebook.
And if I know where you are, I also know where you're not.
Exactly. And that's the point, isn't it? Is it better, therefore, for things like that to post later on when you've already been, the night's over, but you can refer back to you were at this, I don't know, cool, swanky, you know, bar or whatever it was.
So, I mean, I guess that's something that you're going to have to balance based on what other security you might have and what you're concerned about. So what I say is think about what is it that somebody wants to know about me, and what can they do about it. So who wants to know what can they do about it? But coming back to my earlier point about taking pictures, when I'm talking about taking pictures and being careful about who can see that is, for example, let's just say my wife here, she takes a picture right now, a house, and then she uploads that to the internet. Now, everyone can see that. Now, let's just imagine we have a house with a picture on the wall that somebody might want to steal. It might be quite valuable, for example. Now, from that picture,
you can get metadata that no one's found.
Exactly. You can find metadata, and on that metadata, it will give the coordinates of where that picture was taken.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Are you being serious?
Every single picture has metadata associated to it. So you can click on any picture, look for the metadata. It'll tell you when it was taken, the type of device it was taken with, and where the coordinates of that is. And from that, I can actually, if I know you've taken a picture at home, I can just get the metadata of that picture and find out where you live.
No.
And then if you're telling me you're in the restaurant, I know exactly when I can come to your house and how long I'll go before you get back.
See, it's all this information that's out there.
That is such a revelation.
And this is something that is public knowledge to anyone, right? This is not hidden data.
This is not hidden data. This is nothing complicated. This is very straightforward, very open, very public and transparent.
And does everyone know this as well? I mean, I guess it's once you take a picture. I
certainly didn't.
Yeah, I know. This is it's like, how much do we need to know of this new world that we're going into? And are we going to ask the government to step in and start doing this, or do we need to just take care of ourselves, even when the government, if they step in?
So look, we need to take responsibility as individuals. The government's done what they think they can by introducing the GDPR, which is a big new law that came in May 2018.
Okay.
But as individuals, we should each take responsibility for ourselves, because look, the marketers and the people out there, they want all of your data. They want to understand your habits so they can charge more to advertise to you. If I know more about you, I can send you more targeted messaging and I can charge more for that money.
So let me ask you this question. I mean, my friend who I work with, one of our producers in Birmingham, he basically said, me and him were having a conversation about, those lights that go around your TV and all of that kind of stuff, LED lights, right? And he had his Facebook open and he was talking to me about this. And then I went into the show and I started the show. And about 20 minutes later, he literally when I went into a song, he came in, he goes, and he showed me his phone, and it was an advertisement of LED lights on a discount price. Now, is there any truth that our phones are also picking up our voices and conversations to target us? And how do we switch that off there if that is the case?
Yeah, so I'll answer the first question first. Just correct, your phones are always listening to you. So, for example, when you say... and it's not just your phones. It's not just your phones. You've got devices at home. You've got the Alexa, the Google Assistant. You've got smart TVs. I've got smart TV, So, I mean, with smart TVs, the advert that you see during the break on Coronation Street might be different to the one your neighbour sees, depending on what your device information is about you. And they can specifically target you on that. But when it comes to how can you take back control of that, yes. By default, your cookies will be set on, so people will watch what your...
My cookies? When do we get a biscuit involved?
So whenever you go on the website...
Jamal,
you're going to talk to us like we don't know
Sonny
internet,
and I are toddlers when it comes to
when
this
I used to play with computers, it was called a VIC-20. And I used to say LOAD... And then I used to press speech box, and then I pressed play on a tape, and that's how my game was. Then it came on my screen.
He used to use floppy disks, mate. Okay,
we're from back I used to have cassette, and I used to make this weird noise, and then I got my game. So talk to me in that basis.
All right, so let's talk about cookies. So whenever you go on a website, you might see an annoying banner pop up, and it'll say something about cookies and click yes to accept or no to decline.
Right.
So what cookies are, they place little files on your computer or your mobile phone or your tablet. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they're like spies. They look at what you do and how long you do it for and where you're going. So for example, let's just say you're bored, Shay, and you pull out your phone during the break and you maybe want to buy a handbag.
Okay.
Someone will the marketers will place cookies on your computer.
Okay.
And now they'll see that you're looking at handbags.
Okay.
So they might now decide, okay, let's see what else Shay's looking at on when she's not looking at handbags. Then they might see, Shay's got she's doing her shopping. So actually, Shay's someone that shops at Waitrose, so we know she's a little bit more affluent.
Right.
So now I know you're looking at handbags, you're more affluent. Then I might start looking at some of your other habits, and by doing all those things, I can build a very clear profile about your preferences and what kind of messaging and what kind of targeting I should send to you.
Wow.
So the way I talk to you, shopper from, let's just say at Waitrose, might be very different to the way I talk to somebody who I can see shopping at discount stores.
Okay.
Right. Saying then different target advertising and different messages. And those cookies help marketers build a very strong profile. And what they actually have now, and what the government is trying to do something, is called real-time bidding.
Okay.
So you might go on a website, and on that website right now, or when you're reading an article, there's a space where a pop-up can come up with an advert.
Yes.
Now, there will be companies that are bidding to make sure that it's their advert that you see, and depending on your profile and the information they have about you, the data points they have about you, they'll be willing to pay more money for you to see their advert over somebody else's.
Wow.
And that is very, very dangerous. And it's something that the ICO, actually, the Information Commission Office, who regulate data protection in this country, They actually given the industry 6 months to sort that out, and that started a couple of months ago.
And now we're going to continue having a chat with Jamal, because I want to know more about you and why you're so passionate about data protection, because this is clearly something that, you know, not just as a day job, but you can tell it's a real passion. That's why you're on the show today. And by the way, Jamal's company, Kazient, was awarded Best SME last year. They were also finalists at the British Business Awards as well. So clearly you are making waves within this. We'll pick up on that, but we are asking for you to call in if you know you want to talk about data protection. I genuinely mean this. I've been flabbergasted by some of the things that you've said. So when I get home, I'll be changing some of my settings, that's for sure. 0800 731 2000. Let's go to Chris in Hounslow, who has called into the show to speak to Jamal. Hi, Chris. Thanks for getting in touch. What did you want to say to Jamal, or what did you want to ask?
Good evening. I'm going to shorten it SNS.
Thank you, Chris.
That's what you say. This is the SNS show.
Absolutely.
Then qualify it. It sounds good.
Now,
your baby.
Tyra is very well, thank you, Chris.
Don't tell me your baby is naughty. Don't you ever say that.
No, she's not. She's
They're
fine.
exciting.
She's fine. So, Chris, what would you like to say to Jamal? What did you want to say?
I'm very impressed with your expert. I wish I'd known about it before. I wish I'd known about private settings. You see, I sort of navigate my way and I get lost in this technology. And sometimes I press the wrong buttons. I was on Facebook. I come out. I had a lot of fans on Facebook, but they hacked into my phone.
Right.
You don't give out your phone numbers and all that, you know. And I come out of Facebook.
So what's your question to Jamal then? Because you're not on Facebook anymore.
I want to use social media. I want to start a campaign. How do I go about it?
Thanks for the question, Chris. Have a listen. We'll get Jamal to respond, and then we've got, because time is limited. But thank you.
Nice evening.
You too.
Bye.
So keep listening, Chris. So Jamal, that's an interesting point for someone like Chris, who's come off Facebook because he found it so intrusive. As Chris has just said, he did have people actually take some of his personal details. But if Chris wants to use Facebook to set up a campaign, a lot of people do that nowadays. What would you recommend?
So the first thing I would recommend to you, Chris, is to choose a very strong password. Now, a strong password is something that's not easy to guess, and it's not the same password that you use for all your other accounts.
Oh dear.
And it shouldn't be something that somebody can guess. So a strong password
could
be
about...
password
123 then.
Definitely not password 123. So I would say use a mixture of numbers and letters and characters, and try and make it as long as possible. The closer you get to 15, the better, I would say. But make sure that you remember it yourself. And if you find that too complicated, there are things that can help us. We have password managers that you can use now. For example, Google will give you one, Microsoft will give you one, there's other companies there. So you don't have to remember every single password. You can have a password manager which will help you manage those passwords, and they'll give you really strong encrypted passwords. The second thing I would say to you is go one step further and set up two-factor authentication. Now, two-factor authentication is basically, you'll put in a password, but then they will require you to do something else as well. So they might send you a text message on your phone and you'll have a code that you have to verify that it's you, or they might send an email to another account that's not on your device at the moment. And you'll have two different ways of authenticating. It is who you are, who you say you are. So someone will have more of a difficult time getting into your Facebook account, and that will keep your social media safe.
Very important stuff. Something I did want to find out.
Quickly, before we carry on, you were talking about cookies and how we can protect ourselves from these advertisers and what have you. So going back to the cookie aspect, which are spies, really nice name to give them a cute name so they all look nice when we talk about these intrusions. How can we limit the cookies or our interaction or these people just targeting us when we're not asking them to?
So there's two ways you can do it. When a cookie banner pops up on the website, you can go into choose the settings, and you can go in and you can turn off all the cookies apart from the ones that are necessary for the site to function.
Okay.
So by law, any organization or any website that puts cookies on there, if they want to use that to collect information to market to you or collect profile information about you, then you need your consent. Now, not every website is fully compliant, but that option should be there. So when you see that banner, you can always go into that banner and have it off. But you can do something that's a little bit more proactive than that as well. You can go to your web browser. So whether you're using Google Chrome or you're using Microsoft Edge, you can go into the settings, or Yahoo, and you can go into settings and you can select your privacy settings, and you can go into cookie settings and you can turn them all on default to the highest privacy setting where they're not collecting that information.
Wow. So you can do all of this right now, and just by changing them to the highest...
It'll take you 10 seconds. yeah.
I want to know from you personally, Jamal, why are you so passionate about this? Because, it's no longer just about protecting our children online, which is so paramount and so important. Let me be clear on that. But it is also about protecting ourselves, isn't it? And the reason I mention children, of course, if you were to talk to Sonny and I about our niece and nephew, we know all of the private settings. We've made sure everything is, on top point. But we're not necessarily as adults doing that for ourselves, are we? And why are you so passionate about this?
So the way I see it is your personal data, the information about you, your photos, your beliefs, your political opinions, all of that is very valuable to you. And it's very important to you because it's a part of your identity. It's who you are. Now, you wouldn't want someone taking anything that you associate with your identity and stripping you of that.
Right.
Or going and sharing that or manipulating that or doing whatever they want to do with that. Now, data has become one of the most valuable commodities in our time. Actually, it's actually worth more than gold now. And if you remember the Cambridge Analytica scandal and how much they spoke about how the importance of data and the kind of stuff they were doing with it, you can see that your data is yours, it's your human right to your own privacy. As European citizens, we have a right to our privacy. And for someone to come and start violating you of those rights, we wouldn't stand for it. If somebody stood there and I said, I'm going to charge you for breathing the air, that's fundamental human right.
Exactly.
They can't interfere with you. So for me, privacy is a human right. Yeah. It's a fundamental human right. And I don't want anyone to take advantage or deny anyone else of the human right.
So when we hear the conversation around if you've got nothing to hide, who cares? What about that argument?
Yeah.
Because we had... Facebook. Mr. Zuckerberg went in front of Mark Zuckerberg went in front of the grand jury in America, and they asked him, "Which hotel did you stay at last night? Would you share that information with us?" And he said, "No, I wouldn't." And he goes, "Well, that's what we're talking about, privacy. That people don't want to share about every aspect of that, and yet you are harvesting that data of your users." And then we would urge you, and didn't even put any kind of pressure on him to go and actually do anything. They asked him as a polite gesture to tone it down a little bit. So when we look at people who are saying, listen, I've got nothing to hide. Come and check my Facebook account. Come and check my Instagram. It doesn't bother me because I'm not doing anything criminal. It's not about that, is there?
It's not. It's not about you doing something untoward and having something to hide. It's about you as an individual having a right to enjoy life in the 21st century where you can go online and it's all digital, but without having other people take advantage of that and without having other people interfering with your data and your information.
So would you look at it like this? If someone came into your house and started opening your mail and looking through it, you wouldn't let them?
I mean, no, I wouldn't, but for that shit, that's
what you're saying. Basically, that's your data. If someone comes onto your platforms and starts going through your bank account details, your relationship, and start looking at your pictures, I mean, I know that when I go into someone's house, I don't start opening up the drawers and going through their... That's basically what's happening online. That's what you're saying.
Protect
all of that
what I was going to say is, Sunny, imagine I came to your house, took your clothes, took a picture, went across the road and pretended to be Sunny Shay because I've now taken your things.
Yeah.
You wouldn't let me come to your house and take all of your things and pretend to be you across the road.
There you go.
So why are we going to let somebody do that with our digital data?
I think that's a very valid point. Jamal, it's been such a pleasure having you here. And you've blown me away because I've literally sat here making notes. I don't usually do that. Of all the things, privacy settings, taking pictures, cookies, web browser, password managers, all the things that we should be doing. We really have. Would you be up for coming back in on the show?
I'd love to come back.
Maybe we can make this a regular thing every couple of months, get you back in, find out, because it is so important, isn't it? Privacy, absolutely. Data protection as well. But if you're tuning into the show and you're thinking, actually, I would really like to find out further details and maybe speak to Jamal, best thing for people to do is contact you via website. Is that
correct?
Right?
Yes.
So the name of the company is called Kazient Privacy Experts. As I mentioned, congratulations again. You were awarded Best SME last year and finalist for British Business Awards as well. The website is Kazient. So that's Kazient.co.uk. And if you go to the website kazient.co.uk, then you can touch base with the king of data protection himself. I think I know why they call you that now. I'm surprised you didn't come in with a robe, actually, Jamal. Where was your robe of data protection?
It's Sunday, so I leave you.
You'll have to bring it in next time. Real pleasure having you on the show. Thank you for joining us, Jamal.
Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Wow, that was such an informative half an hour of the show. I've got to say, we will definitely follow that up. And thanks to everyone who's been getting in touch as well. We couldn't take everyone's calls, but what we will say, as we've just mentioned with Jamal, go to his website. You can get all the information there on kazient.co.uk. And we promise he's given us a thumbs up. He'll be coming back in the coming months. And we'll do a bit of a follow-up with Jamal on the other things that we couldn't really talk about today. Now.